welcome in. I'm the Kodiak, and today I'm here to talk about breaking down the 2025 AFC, and do you expect the Broncos to make the 2025 playoffs? Now, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're not already. My comment question of the day is, if you're not from Colorado, where are you from? Because Broncos country expands far and wide. We have an enormous fan base, and it seems like a lot of my viewers are not from Colorado. So I'm curious to hear, where are you from if you're not from Colorado in Broncos country? So yeah, follow me on Twitter at Kodiak Broncos if you like what I have to say on here. Let's dive right into it. So let me explain. You could be thinking to yourself, now they just made the playoffs this past year with a lot of holes on their roster, with no tight end, no running game, no nose tackle, no inside linebackers, no safety. And to all that, I say, yeah, that's entirely true. But the NFL is not a linear progression league. Just because a team did something one year, it does not mean that they're guaranteed to do it the next. Like the 2021 Bengals, they probably thought there was nowhere to go up after they made the Super Bowl and only lost by 3 points, and they haven't made it back there since. The 22 Giants, they completely derailed their franchise by making the playoffs that one year. The 2023 Lions, they just completely got bounced in the divisional round by the Washington Commanders. So listen, do not be surprised if we don't make the playoffs in 2025 for a number of reasons. We made the playoffs this year with glaring holes on our roster that, yes, will be filled by Sean Payton and George Payton, and they are aggressive when they, go after those holes. But ultimately, I think it's fair to say that this past year, we got a pretty lucky draw with the NFC South and playing some teams who self-destructed. I mainly talking about Indianapolis and some teams who didn't try, like the Kansas City Chiefs Week 18. But listen, so this video is about, should we expect playoffs? And I'm going to be breaking down the whole 2025 AFC and what I expect from each team going forward. So looking back at this past year, I don't think many Broncos fans were thinking playoffs before the year began. Yes, the 5.5 win total by Vegas was a huge process miss, but ultimately it wasn't invalid. Based on what people were saying about, us not having that good of a roster, it wasn't entirely invalid, especially because, Benito wasn't Benito yet. Zach Allen wasn't Zach Allen yet. We didn't really look to have a cornerback 2 answer until Riley Moss played great this past year. And we just saw a bunch of unforeseen development from a lot of our core guys. But I still think this coaching staff wildly overperformed in the grand scheme of things. Not individually. I don't think Sean Payton overperformed his, coaching ability. I don't think Vance Joseph overperformed his coaching ability either. But I think in the grand scheme of things, based on our expectations heading into the year, we definitely overperformed, especially considering how much talent we thought was on this team. This team was designed to lose football games. $70 million or whatever was on the dead money list. So we were already on uneven ground building this team. And overall, it felt like this year, the second tier of the AFC completely imploded. And now we're suddenly stable at quarterback, GM, head coach, and owner, which is very common in sustained success. So what are the Broncos up against in the AFC? Well, listen, the division is off limits until proven otherwise. I don't think we can say that confidently until another team proves they can win it above Mahomes and Andy Reid. So yeah, ultimately, the rest of the AFC West is getting better, but the division is off limits for now, which means we're probably going to have to look at the wild card next year if we want to make the playoffs. So any team not named Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore is a potential threat to Denver in the postseason hopes. The reason I bring up those 3 teams is because those teams are probably the locks to win their division. They're probably the locks to make it. And listen, here are some AFC teams who I am not expecting to contend for a wildcard spot next year. The Jets and the Titans. With the Jets, I expect it to be like a 2021 Lions year where they're a tough team to play against, but they just really don't have the talent to get them over the top, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because they don't really have a path to getting a quarterback at this juncture either. And the Tennessee Titans as well. They're going to be adding Cam Ward, and that can do a lot for a franchise, as we saw with Washington and Jane Daniels this past year. But listen, our advantage is at the high-value positions. We had great quarterback, edge, offensive tackle, or offensive line in general, and cornerback play. And we can count on that in 2025 as well, considering we're getting a lot of continuity at those positions. So our 2025 opponents, AFC West home and away, AFC South, I think we're on the road at Houston and at Indianapolis. So that means we have Jaguars and Tennessee at home. NFC East, we unfortunately have Philly and Washington on the road, but we get the Giants and the Cowboys at home. We also have the Bengals, I think, at home, the Packers at home as well, and then the Jets, I think, on the road. So here are some other AFC rivals. I'm going to be breaking down all these teams and whether or not I think we can finish ahead of them in the grand scheme of things. So the Chargers, they are currently better than us. They swept us twice. They swept us this year. They beat us clean twice, but what I will say is they're set up eerily similar. A lot of their offseason plan is going to be very similar to what we are going to do. They're going to be patching holes on the defensive side of the ball while trying to add literally anything they can get their hands on at skill position. So, unfortunately, as of right now, I think the Chargers are better than us, except for other than the Chargers, Chiefs, Ravens, and Bills. I don't see a whole lot of other teams that are better than us in the AFC, and I think that's why ultimately I do expect us to get a 5 or 6 seed next year. So the Steelers, this team has hit a ceiling under Mike Tomlin. They make the playoffs every single year off the backs of their defense, but the offense is anemic. They don't have an immediate path to upgrading that either. And talking about the Texans, like their defense is really good. Their defense is really good. The pass rush is really good. But the offense around C.J. Stroud has mega question marks. I think they actually just hired their offensive coordinator yesterday. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they can fix the O-line. It's going to be interesting to see how Diggs and if they even have Diggs back. And Tank Dell, how they're recovering. Nico Collins is obviously a dog, but around C.J. Stroud, we've got some mega questions. The Bengals, okay, their defense will be a lot better. Like, Al Golden is going to be a much better defensive mind than Lou Anarumo was. Like, obviously, I think a lot of their issues were stemming from a lack of talent, and they did not play as bad on the defensive side of the ball as they had played, in the first 3 months of the year. But losing T. Higgins is a huge equalizer for as far as whether or not that team is going to get better or for worse. And ultimately, I don't think it makes them better. Yeah, you can add a new defensive coordinator. You can draft some defensive guys, but they're probably losing T. Higgins. So that is not boding well for the Cincinnati Bengals. The Dolphins, unfortunately, Tua can't stay healthy. Unfortunately, he can't beat good teams. And when he is not there, they look absolutely horrible. It's just a bonus as well that I think the league in general has figured out the Mike McDaniel offense. So, yeah. Other AFC rivals, the Colts, the defense was horrible this past year. Anthony Richardson has not progressed as a passer, especially in the short and intermediate game. Too many times he's completing like 11 passes out of 33 attempts, and it's just not going good there as far as his development. So once again, this is a team that falls short of the playoffs, like usually by 2 or 3 games every single year. I see no reason why that's not going to be the case next year as well. The Raiders, do not underestimate how hard Pete Carroll will have them play. Like, I think people are really underestimating how quickly Pete Carroll rebuilt the Seahawks in 2010 and had them playing very, very competitive football almost right off the bat. But listen, the Raiders, they still don't have the talent to compete with even us or the Chargers in the AFC West, and let alone the Chiefs. But yeah, just don't underestimate how hard Carroll will have them playing. Am I saying they're going to win 8, 9 games next year? No, but don't question a very scrappy 5 or 6. So the Jaguars, they only have 3 true impact players. Brian Thomas Jr., Trevor Lawrence, and even him, like he's barely a top half quarterback. Joshua Hines-Allen, but listen, they are finally getting Liam Cohen to run their offense instead of Doug Peterson, which is a huge upgrade because it looks like Peterson was destroying his career just for Press Taylor, which was really weird to think about. Patriots, Vrabel and May, they could have the Patriots punching well above their weight class because with the Tennessee Titans, that is what Vrabel always did when he was the coach of them. 2019, they make the AFC Championship. 2020, they win the division, yeah. In 2021, they also got the number 1 seed in the AFC, despite the fact that they didn't have that great of talent other than A.J. Brown and Henry. Like, ultimately, that's just what they were able to accomplish, and don't underestimate that with a much bigger upgrade at quarterback than anything that Vrabel had in Tennessee. So the Jets, the roster says 4 wins, but Glenn could very well get them to overperform, and Darren Moogie, our guy, could find them some studs. So listen, the Titans have a nice offensive line, but that's it. There's a lot riding on what they do with the first overall pick in general. So overall thoughts. As of right now, I am thinking playoffs. But the AFC South is a better draw than, if they were to play the AFC North like they did this past year, or the AFC East even. In Green Bay and the Bengals, they're both definitely beatable at home. But listen, the holes on this team are very distinct, and they're going to be figured out. Like, in our losses, we allowed third downs to be converted at a 50% clip. That's going to be figured out. We're going to find some personnel that can limit those sorts of damages. We're going to get a run game, or at least we're going to try to get a run game. We're going to add at the running back position. We're going to add at wide receiver and tight end as well. And once again, our leg up is that quarterback, offensive line, defensive back, and edge. Those are 4 groups where you really, really want high-value play at, and we got it. We got it this past year, and I see no reason why we can't get it next year as well. Now, the one thing that I haven't even mentioned is we got to hope that Knicks doesn't sophomore slump, because that is a possibility, but I just don't see that happening. We have real infrastructure in place to make sure that that doesn't happen. And listen, we just got to pray that we have good health, because the past 2 years have been absolutely fantastic of health for the Denver Broncos. But, we just got to make sure that that remains true, and hopefully we stay the course with that as well. Well, Lowry, you've done a heck of a job, but let's keep it going. Just got to knock on wood, because, I don't want to curse the team or anything like that. But yeah, so those are my overall thoughts. I do expect the Broncos to make the playoffs in 2025. A lot of it boils down to I just don't see in the AFC, outside of 4 teams, who is legitimately better than us. And that's why I expect the Broncos to be in the driver's seat for a wildcard spot next year. So yeah, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Mahalo salute.